what can we expect if you are thinking about buying a house in 2026, or if you're already a homeowner and perhaps you have a variable rate mortgage and you're paying close attention to those interest rates? Well, the big six banks are split on what is going to happen with interest rates in the new year. Time to look into our crystal ball and try and predict what we think will happen. Joining me now is LJ Aguinaga, certified residential and commercial real estate broker and one of the co-hosts of Under One Roof MTL Sundays at noon, right here on CJD. Hey, LJ, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Robyn. How are you?
I'm good. I was just reading this article on CTV's website because, as you and I both know, we pay close attention to those interest rates every week on Under One Roof, and everybody seems a little bit split. BMO is pretty much the only big six bank predicting rate cuts in the new year. Scotiabank and National Bank are predicting rate increases, while CIBC, RBC, and TD think there will be no change to interest rates. Now, obviously, this is based on the information that we have today, and if you've lived through 2025, you know that things can change on a dime, right, LJ?
100%. You said it perfectly.
So what do you think is going to happen in the new year based on the information that we have right now?
I would call what we're in right now a normalization phase. I don't expect there to be any significant decreases or increases in reality. I suspect stability is going to be the biggest thing we're going to see this year. If inflation jumps a little bit, might we see a 25 basis point jump? Possibly, but I think we're talking about maximum 50 basis points in either direction. It's not going to be the 100 basis points or 200 basis points that we've seen over the last couple of years in either direction either. So with this, it brings stability. And what stability does to our market is that it reduces the volatility and it brings confidence back into the market, because once we know that we can make a decision and we're not concerned about what's going to happen with the market over the next 6 months, you feel a lot more confident in whatever decision you decide to go with effectively. So this is really just bringing buyers back into a market that is a lot more stable now and allows a bit more clarity than what we've experienced for the last 4 or 5 years, to be honest.
Yeah, and rates have been decreasing for the last year and a half or so, and I wonder if that has led some people to sit on the sidelines saying, well, maybe rates will keep going down. I'm going to hold off before I get in the market. And what is it you and Martin always say? It's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
That's exactly it, right? And everybody thinks they have a wonderful crystal ball. It tells them exactly when's going to be the best time. But like I tell all my clients, the best time is whenever it's right for your family. For you to try and time the market is absolutely impossible. If you could do that, you'd already would have won the lottery. So the reality is, whenever it's the right time for your family, whenever you're financially stable, whenever you have the savings to do so, that's when it makes sense to really analyze if this is the right move for you. And if it is, fantastic. And if it's not, then there's no shame in renting either. I think there's a lot of shame that's come along with the idea of renting. But if you're somebody who is financially stable, who's been making great returns on your investments, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a question of understanding what's the best decision for your family today.
Wow. I never hear any real estate brokers saying it's okay to rent. This is why I like talking to you, LJ. No
Thank
nonsense over here. Okay, so for folks who don't know, what impacts the interest rates? Because there are two different kinds of interest rates that you can have when you get a mortgage, right? You've got your variable and your fixed. What is the difference between the two for somebody who may not know?
Okay, so fixed rate is, let's start with the simplicity of when you sign it today, it will be fixed for the course of your term. Term is typically 3 or 5 years, those are the most common ones in Canada. And what that means is you can sign up, let's say, a 5-year fixed rate at 5% today. Now, what is impacting fixed rates? It's the bond market. So basically, banks decide where does it make more sense to park some of their money. Do they just buy a 5-year bond where they're going to get a guaranteed return over that 5-year period? Or do they lend the funds out and get interest from end users like me and you for that money and charge a little bit of a premium? So based on how the bond market is reacting, fixed rates are going to follow that, but at an increased rate, obviously. Next, we have the variable interest rates. And variable interest rates, like the name suggests, can go up or down. They're variable based on how the Canadian economy is doing. So what that's tracking is the overnight lending rate, or more specifically, the prime rate of Canada, because most variable rates are basically your rate is calculated by the prime rate of Canada less a discount in most cases. So prime today is 4.45, and you might be getting, let's say, a 0.5% discount, which would bring you to 3.95%. So if into the prime rate were to go up, and that's the announcements that we have about 6 to 8 times a year. If it goes up, your interest rate's going up with it. If it goes down, your interest rate's going down with it. Other things that are tied to prime are things like lines of credits or any variable loans.
Okay, and what actually impacts the Bank of Canada's decision to change the prime rate or the overnight lending rate? This can be different, right? And different things have different weight. I mean, I know inflation is a big one.
That's it.
But also, jobs, there's other things, right?
100%. Look, you've definitely been doing this show for the last 2 years, and you've learned a lot along the way. But exactly what they're looking at is inflation. When inflation goes up, the biggest metric that the Bank of Canada has to control inflation are interest rates. So they raise interest rates as well in order to try to bring inflation down by bringing spending down. The other thing that plays a role in this decision-making is the job market, like you said. When we have a high unemployment, they try and reduce interest rates in order to help the economy out. And when we have very low unemployment, they try to increase rates because people have access to funds effectively. So those are the two biggest metrics that they're looking at when deciding what they should be doing next.
And then there's also sort of the international scene factors in, right? We've got Kuzma up for negotiation. Donald Trump levies tariffs left, right, and center. We've got tariffs. We don't have tariffs, 10%, 20%. It's hard to keep up at this point. Global unrest, that can impact interest rates as well, right?
100%. Whenever there's instability, and that's why I was focusing on that at the beginning of the segment, whenever we don't know what's coming next, whenever we have a lack of stability, simply put, the bank is going to react in order to try and protect Canadians, and that's what they're going to base their decisions on.
So at the beginning of the segment, I don't know if you heard, I read a text from somebody who was listening to our previous segment saying the part of the reason millennials can't afford houses is because we don't want to cook, we have expensive cable, we insist on taking vacations every year, we always want new cars, and we don't want to sacrifice anything, and then we just complain that we can't afford houses. You have been doing
about the extra avo on all of our toast.
Right, all the avocado toast, right? Yeah. I forgot about that. Okay, you've been doing this for a really long time, LJ. I don't want to age you or anything, but you've been in real estate.
Years.
Yeah, 17 years is a long time to be doing this. Is it harder to buy a house today than it was when our parents were buying houses 30, 40 years ago?
The reality is, I've had this conversation with older people, I've had it with younger people, and it is always a difficult endeavor for that person at that time. Looking back, we always think, it was way easier back then. It was way easier, however you want to cut it. But if we go 60 years ago, most Canadian households were single-family households, or single income earners, pardon me. A lot of the homes were significantly smaller as well. There's a lot of variables that are playing into the consideration here. So was it easier to buy back then? I mean, it was definitely less expensive, but income was less expensive as well. And just the way the world has evolved is very different. Your capacity for earnings is significantly more today than it was in the past. But again, not everyone's taking advantage of that. So I really think that this question really kind of comes down to, it's not a them versus us. It's what are you doing to put yourself in a position of success, and how are you going to take advantage of whatever abilities you have in order to really live the life that you want. I think that we're our own worst enemies, and we really have to make sure to be doing what's right for our families and for ourselves in order to put ourselves in a position to succeed regardless of our generation.
Hear, hear. LJ Aguinaga, certified residential and commercial real estate broker and co-host of Under One Roof MTL Sundays at noon on CJD 800. We will be back in the new year with more Under One Roof, by the way. I think our first show back is January 11th, if you want to mark your calendars. Thanks so much for this, LJ. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
And to you.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.